All right, so electrical. It's really easy when you get all the walls removed like this because obviously you can run all the new wires, and it's really important to investigate your existing electrical, especially if you have an older home and you've had many renovations done. Usually a lot of the stuff wasn't brought up to code or just was really sloppily done. In this particular bathroom, we had some old Knobe Tube, and that is really dangerous to add new devices to, especially if you're doing something like a new outlet or something like that. Hair dryers suck out a lot of amperage, and you don't want to be using your old wiring for that. So we're going to go through step by step on what you want to do typically, or what I typically do in a bathroom for a setup. So let's get started. Okay, so the common setup for electrical in a bathroom for me is the way I basically do it on every job is I get a 3-switch box because I like to have my fan on a separate circuit. Usually there's a light above the vanity or on the side sconces of the vanity, so we have a separate switch for that. And I always put a recessed light above a tub or a shower, and then that be on its separate switch as well. So a 3-switch box, gang box, is usually ideal for that. This particular situation, I have a fairly narrow depth in my wall because of the way the old structure was. Now we're gonna have to add on a little bit of thickness here because my jam's sticking out, but this little tiny gang box is only about 3 inches deep, and that's gonna work fine because right now we have 1 3/4 inches. We're gonna add another 1/2 inch plus the 1/2 inch drywall will be about 3 1/4 inches. So normally I like to have the bigger volume cubic inch boxes that have a little bit more depth. It makes it easier if you want to do a timer switch, or if you wanted a dimmer switch. Those things kind of take up a lot of volume, and it's kind of tough to fit in this box. But in this particular situation, we're just doing straight switches, so it's not going to be a problem. All right, so then we're going to be running this up. Typically, you usually go off the floor about 52 inches to the bottom of your box. You know, a lot of times I reference what the rest of the house is, so it's all the same. But typically it is between 52 inches for a switch box. Now you want to pay attention to not being too close to your trim. We're going to be getting a 4-inch trim on here, so we don't want the switch box being too crowded. In this situation, it looks like as long as I just go straight up against my 2x4 here, I'll have about 1.5 inches space between that and my cover. So just be aware of your circumstances in your own bathroom. The other thing is I'm going to be doing a tiled wainscoting, so I want to pay attention to that. I do not want this outlet being chopped off or having, I mean, either it's going to be in the tile work or it's going to be out of the tile work. I think it's better just to be higher and be above the tile work rather being in it, but that's all, again, just personal preference, and then basically how high your wainscoting is going to be. My particular wainscoting is going to be about 48 inches, so that 52 inches is going to give me plenty of space between the switch cover and that tile work. Okay, so I got to cut out my stud here a little bit. All right, and then I need to put some plywood over top of this so that when we get our 1/2 inch drywall, we're even with our jamb. So I'm going to put some 1/2 inch strips on here and then install the box. Let me grab that. You have these little tabs on here. Just want to make sure that they stick outside of the finished wall that you're installing. Just because you gotta make sure that this stays level. Otherwise, you can't really adjust your switches in this direction. Okay, so for power supply to this, just a 15 amp line, 14.2 is all that you need. So we're gonna run this all the way down to our panel, and then this is gonna be our power supply to the switches. And I also have another switch from my attic for my lighting circuit. You can add the lighting circuits. If you had an existing lighting circuit that was not Knobe Tube, you can certainly use that, but I definitely advise getting a new 20 amp line for your GFI and if you're doing in-floor heating. So when you take this out of the box, I would roll this out so that you're not twisting your wire. So just get enough to get all the way down to your location by just rolling this out. And then this will keep it kind of straight when you're running it. So this particular situation, I'm going to be running it down through here. I have an open ceiling down below, so I can just route this through the floor joist. So let me get it. So we have a nice little pathway. And all of this stuff will staple and probably zip tie together here. But for right now, we're going to keep running our wires. It's a nice, easy chase way to get down to the basement. Staple these so that they don't get pinched in the drywall or anything. That much left. We'll just keep this out for now. I have a joist right against the edge there. That's going to be kind of difficult to run a wire through there because I have to drill up and then try to fish it down. So I'm going to go underneath the floor and bring my lighting circuit up. We're going to be doing most likely 2 side sconces. So I'm going to bring my power lead or my power lead to the light fixtures underneath the floor and over. So we're going to mark this vanity light. And this is power. So just make sure I know that's power. Okay, so this guy is just going to get tucked in front of the insulation so that when we figure out exactly where we want that light fixture, we can grab this wire and put it in place. So I'm just going to loosely put a staple here. I put the insulation in, I'll hold this out and then I'll be able to grab it. Most likely it's going to be somewhere around 5 foot or maybe 6 foot, but you'll be able to grab this wire. We want to bring one over for the other side of the light. So that should work fine for now. All right, so we need a light for above our tub. So this is the old BX cable that they have attached to the Knobe Tube. And as you can see, I have open splices here. This stuff is really nasty. In some ways, this stuff is even worse than Knobe Tube. If you see this stuff, you don't have Knobe Tube and this is routed everywhere, I'd replace this as well. This is really, a lot of times the sheathing can wear out around the edges here. And then when you're adding new light fixtures or something to this, you can get a spark. You know, this is just a dangerous type of wire. This stuff is probably, 60 years old as well. So definitely get rid of that. But obviously open splices like this is definitely not good. You can even see, they just have a cloth tape around it. Just ugly, ugly stuff. So definitely try to be safe and take this stuff out of here. This used to just fish all the lights throughout the house. Probably done in the 30s, probably 20s. So it lasts a long time. It's just we have higher demands on our electric, and you don't want to be connecting old or new devices to this, basically. Sorry. So when you're drilling holes into this ceiling joist, try to be in the center. You know, just try to keep it so when you're putting your screws in for your drywall that you're not going to pinch that wire. Plus, I'm actually going to further this down a little bit with some 1x material. So when I nail this, I want to make sure I don't nail my wires. So I'm going to go up a little bit higher here. But you have to be aware, like there's a floor above here too. So if people are nailing down in, you really want to be, you know, 2 inches away from the edge so that they don't puncture your new wires. So I like to center these in the shower area. So about 3 foot, somewhere within this stud bay, and then we're going to be about 16 inches to the center. So I just have to route this wire up. Again, we're going to be drilling a hole and then grabbing this wire. So this is going to stay kind of loose up here. This will be underneath the insulation as well. I'll cut a hole and be able to grab this wire. So this is all going to be on the same circuit. So let's route this, and we'll just keep this loose until we get our vent fan in. But this is a little odd here. I'm going to basically notch this out a little bit and put a metal plate on it. I mean, obviously this is a weird scenario where you have the studs are flat. So I want to just notch out a little bit more of this and then just put in a nail plate to hold it together. There we go. You just want to make sure that this is loose. You don't want that pinching anything. All right, and then we'll bring this down. Needs to be powered as well. I always just mark it with a magic marker. Okay, so these two get wired together. This is my vanity light, this is my fan, and this is my light fixture. So take about 1 inch off the sheathing. Okay, so what I like to use are these Wago clips. These things are awesome. So they're just like little levers. You just lift them up, stick the wire in, nope, sorry, wrong side. Stick the wire inside, and then you just want to make sure that your copper is seen through the back side of the Wago clip. But that holds it in nice, and it's really easy. I mean, it's like, you know, you can't, even if you screw up, you can just lift that lever up and take it out of there. So really kind of a nice little system here. Go put it in this side, there you go. So then they come in all different sizes. So this is a 5 lever, because what we need to do here is put all of the neutrals together. So all the white wires need to come together. Again, just make sure that all those copper lines are sticking up above. Pull on your wires, make sure that they're all connected well. And then, so the power leads are connected here. So all of this, we're gonna have to get basically 3 separate power supplies to each one of these. We're gonna do that after we get everything else hooked up. But let's go ahead and just put all our grounds together here. Connect all these, and then use a Wago clip that will go to each ground to each switch. You want to ground each switch, but we're going to just basically tie these all together first. And then let's just get this tucked back into the back of the box. so we're gonna put this on here for our ground because we're gonna have to connect all that eventually. Okay. Hold that in there for now. Okay, GFI outlet. I really highly recommend these type of boxes, these adjustable boxes. This will make it really easy, especially if you're doing a tiled wainscoting or any type of wainscoting. You could adjust this to fit to where your wall meets. Now, as far as location goes, I don't personally like them directly behind the vanity area. I like them out kind of on the outside so that when you have your wires connected, they kind of droop down, you know, below the vanity. Typically, you usually are about 42 inches off the floor for the bottom of your box. The only thing you want to pay attention to is what you're doing. I'm having a towel wainscoting that's coming up 48 inches, so we're going to be about there. And I'm going to have a little border. So we're going to have bull nose, a little border, and I really don't want this outlet in that border. So I want to keep this down a little bit further. This is also where it's nice not being in right directly behind the vanity. It's nice to have it, to be able to have the flexibility to make it a little bit lower, and it won't interprotrude with the actual countertop. So we're going to be actually installing a 30-inch vanity. So our vanity is basically going to be ending at the edge of this 2x4. So just paying attention to that, you know, the countertop is not going to overhang that far, so I'm not worried about it. I'm going to just keep this down just to be safe because I don't know how wide of a border I'm going to be doing it. But if it's 4 inches, I want to make sure that I have plenty of room. So I'm going to actually bring this down. So in this instance, we're going to be like 36 inches to the bottom of that box. So this would be a problem if you were trying to, you know, if you had a countertop coming all the way over. 36 inches is way too low. Typically that's where your countertop sits, but since this is outside of that vanity area, it's not going to be a big deal. It'll be kind of basically in line with that countertop for the most part. So I'm going to go ahead and use this box. Now this is designed to go over like a regular 2x4, so it has these little nailing flange pieces on here. I have to cut these off now because I'm putting them on a flat 2x4 like this. So just cut that off. I also don't want to be too close to the wall either because we're obviously going to have a towel wainscoting coming here, and I don't want to have it directly in the corner. So we're about 4 inches away from the wall, which will work out great. We'll basically have about 2.5 inches of space between the edge of the wall. But yeah, these are great. So you can just basically bring these out as much as you need to make them work. All right, so then for your GFI, you definitely want to be using a 20 amp wire, so 12-2 yellow cable. So we're going to run this straight down to the basement. This will be completely dedicated. That's what you want to have for your GFI. When you're using hair dryers and things, you definitely need it to be dedicated. Boy, Hubert. It's that bad, huh? It's bad. It's bad. She's freaking out here.